right, so as you guys start making your way and settling your space, my name is Meryl and I'll be guiding you. And just a little bit of background about me, I used to teach at Bent 9 where she also teaches. So we've known each other for a couple of years and she has lovingly invited me to, your water, or invited me to your retreat here. And it's lovely, it's a beautiful morning, thank heavens the sun is out. So those of you who are new to Yin is the practice in yoga of stillness. So it's not necessarily, so I should reiterate that it is nothing, quote unquote, like restorative. Restorative yoga has zero activation versus Yin is activation into the connective tissues. So you'll be holding the postures longer, 3 to 5 to 7 minutes. Unilaterally, meaning one side, like banana pose, you'll hold that for maybe 3 minutes. A butterfly pose you would be holding for like 5 to 7 minutes, okay? And I encourage you to take the posture at a 70%. So for instance, when you go, if I cue you to get into pigeon prep, right? Regular pigeon prep. So instead of really holding it and coming all the way down, or taking, a mermaid or something of that nature, settling it into the breath, because you'll be holding it for extended amount of time. Are there any questions before we get started? Looks like we might have one more coming. And then if you did bring props, I highly recommend them. I think they're wonderful. Anytime, not just in a Yin practice, but just a yoga practice in general, it's always nice to have them. And believe it or not, I'm starting to get hot, right? I brought my sequins. Oh, that's Caitlin. So she's hanging my t-shirt on my side view mirror. I'll have to thank her later. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And of course, always encouraging you to find a comfortable space to start your practice. So whether that is Sukhasana, easy seat, I'm in Siddhasana, which is one shin in front of the other. So externally rotating from the hips, right? If you have your props, a bolster or 2 blocks, bringing them side by side, you can start to elevate the hips a little bit and you can find some comfort in your spine, right? So folded blanket, and starting to feel the length of the spine, right? So really grounding down into the ischial bones. And close your eyes. Bring the shoulders down and away from the ears. If you have a mudra practice, you're welcome to take that. Settle in. Connect with the breath. Connect with nature. Just taking a moment to arrive into your body, arrive to your mat. And perhaps setting an intention for your practice this morning. Maybe something that resonates here throughout your retreat. And perhaps the body hasn't been as active as it normally is. Here in retreats, there's so many options to practice. Where has the body arrived? Usual yoga practice, whether it's slow flow, a power flow, booty yoga, oftentimes we build the breath, but here in Yin, we'll start to tap into a different kind of breath where you can get into the vagus nerve for that rest and digest, that stillness option. And so for today, getting into what's known as the box breath, and we'll take a few rounds of it together. It'll be a 4-count inhale, 4-count hold, a 4-count exhale, and a 4-count pause. So just simply notice the breath as you breathe in and out through the nose. And exhaling all the air out. Inhale for 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Return to your natural breathing. Notice the rhythm, the cadence of the normal natural breath. Perhaps it's a little bit slower, a little bit deeper. And know that you can always return to that box breath. In the practice of stillness and yin, oftentimes the challenge is the mind. You're holding the posture, but the mind likes to wander. Can you come back to the breath, perhaps your intention? And so taking a few more rounds of your natural cadence breath. And then at the bottom of your next exhale, softly open the eyes. And we'll start to move into Janu Sirsasana, forehead to knee. And so extending that right leg forward, bend into the left knee, and bring the sole of the left foot into the inside of the right thigh. Right, so just simply noticing, if you have a bolster, you can lay it right over the extended leg. Flex through the right foot, right? So in essence, I imagined maybe the body just needs a little bit of deep stretch to get into from all the activity you've had throughout the past couple of days, or day and a half, if you will. So again, press into the sit bones and you breathe in, and then exhale as you start to reach, right? So again, the fullest variation would be all the way down, but remember that the body is very cool at the beginning of practice. So whether the hands land here at the thigh, the knee, or the calf, and just simply notice and start to lengthen into the backside of that right leg. And we tap into what's known as the Longana breath. So as you breathe in, your exhale settles you. Perhaps that stretch starts to deepen a little bit more. Simultaneously feeling the left inner thigh, the left adductor start to lengthen as well as the stretch starts to deepen. And always, always that opportunity to close the eyes, soften the gaze. Notice it in the hamstring, the calf muscle, the gastrocnemius, maybe even the plantar fascia and the Achilles. That even though the body has stilled, allowing that breath to flow. And that box breath is there for you. when the mind likes to focus on counting rather than what comes next or afterwards. And throughout your practice this morning, I'll be cueing you for 5 breaths. And that'll be your opportunity to either deepen, maybe to your fullest expression, heart all the way down to the knee, forehead down to the knee. Or perhaps you felt that intensity for quite some time and you fractionally want to lift up a little bit before the fullest exit of the posture. And so go ahead and take 5 deep breaths right here. Perhaps each time you exhale, you get a little bit deeper or you release a little bit more. Can you close the eyes and tune inward? As everybody starts to finish up their rounds of breath, sometimes we start to chop our breaths into a shorter stance just to keep up, if you will. But really, the challenge can be maybe you're going to be the last one to rise. As you start to approach that 5th exhale, slowly starting to come all the way up to seated. And you can keep that left knee nice and bent, still getting into Baddha Konasana, butterfly. Right? So bringing the soles of the feet together. If you like, you can lift up that right knee with the hands. And a couple of options. The traditional butterfly, heels all the way in towards the perineum, right? And get more into the internal thighs and the inguinals, or you can bring them out to a little bit of a diamond shape that gets more into a tortoise variation. You can scoop up the ankles, and then as you breathe in, your exhale allows that third eye to come towards the inner arches of the feet. So depending on where you need the stretch, where you need the activation, so in the diamond shape gets a little bit more into outer hips, low back, or closer in, you can press the elbows into the inner thighs and grab onto the tops of the feet. And as you breathe in, sit up nice and tall, and then exhale, start to fold down. And you'll notice, right? So this may be where you start, and again, you take that big breath in, and then that exhale settles you closer towards the earth, and you hold. releasing whatever distractions may be coming about. And the practice of pratyahara is releasing of the senses. And sometimes closing the eyes, closing off, will take those distractions away. And take 5 deep breaths. Consciously deciding, deepening, or lessening. There's only 5 rounds of breaths. And where do you want to go from here? As you start to approach that 5th exhale, allowing the upper body to come back up to an upright position when you're ready, only when you're ready. So maybe it's not 5 breaths, maybe it's 10 breaths, it's what you need. You start to climb and you articulate through the spine, all the way up to seated, and you'll get into the other side of Janu Sirsasana. So this time extension through that left leg, and bringing the sole of the right foot in. So that right knee stays bent. Again, flexing through the left foot, dorsiflex, toes towards the nose. You need to breathe in for that starting breath and then exhale as you start to float down. And pressing that right knee towards the earth, lengthening into the back of the left leg. Utilizing that breath. Always listening to your body. And no 2 sides are ever the same. So you may feel length on one side, but the opposite side may feel a little bit stiffer. Always practicing that patience, letting go of any self-judgment. taking 5 deep breaths right here in this posture. Nice, and as you start to complete your rounds of breath, slowly coming up to an upright posture. Because we've had the legs bent and such, you can go ahead and plant the feet and take a few windshield wipers, right? We've opened up a little bit into the adductors, and we'll get more into that and into the medial patellar region and into the knee joint. So I encourage you, if you'd like to turn to that side. I'm horrible with mirroring, right, left, whatever it is. Turn that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So getting into wide-legged forward fold, Upavishta Konasana. So when you start to, and if you want to stay facing forward, you're welcome to do so. But if you like your full body on your mat, a couple of options as you start to separate the legs a little bit wider. Simultaneously, if you feel that's really intense, you can bring your bolster or a folded blanket or even blocks side by side, right? And you sit up nice and tall to start. And then as you start to breathe out, you start to finger crawl those hands towards the midline. Many different options, especially if you have props. Maybe you have more than one. So in this posture, I like to bring blocks, either stack them upon each other. I have tight hips, hamstrings. So planting my forehead down onto stacked blocks is an option if you have that. But notice if the toes are rolling inward, right? So you want the toes pointing up towards the sky, flex through the feet, so you'll feel that back of the legs start to fire up and lengthen. Some of us are what I call incredibly gifted. They can get their belly all the way down to the earth, and nice for them, but always listening to your body. What do you need? Where do you need to hold? Where do you need to stop? And again, this is one of those postures that will be rather intense. So when we do get out, and wait for my cue, and I'll guide you out of the posture. Whether you stay high on your forearms or on your hands, always that option. Can you stay open through the chest, so you lengthen through the spine rather than just rolling inward? start to take your 5 rounds of breath. And what do you need here in this instance? A little relief, a little amplification. Taking all the time that you need. And when you do decide to come out of the posture, slowly starting to lift that chest, sitting upright. And so you'll notice that the inside of the knee probably feels really activated. Go ahead and utilize the hands to support the knees as you start to bend them up a little bit, and then you can inch the heels into the midline. And so for a counter, starting to get a little bit more into having the legs together, so you can turn and face the front of your mat and get into fixed Fern Supta Virasana or half saddle. So depending on your knee joints, I will demonstrate full fixed Fern to start. So as you come and fold the legs underneath you, you can start to separate the heels so they're outside of your hips. Okay, so this is the full fixed Fern, and then I'll go into some modifications. And so this may be enough for you on the knee joint. If it's really intense, you can bring a block or a bolster underneath to levitate a little bit so it's not so intense onto the knee joint. If you're feeling nothing, you'd like to amp it up a little bit, you can start to recline either onto a bolster or completely onto your mat. There'll be some space between the lumbar and your mat, so I can actually put my entire forearm underneath. And the fullest variation is arms overhead and grabbing onto opposite elbows. So again, upright, reclined, your choice. And then still yet, if it feels really intense, even sitting up on a block, you can work one side. And those may be, and I will cue you for those of you who are working on one side, right? So this may be better for you. The objective is to stretch the quads as well as the top of the knee joint. And then perhaps this one, half saddle, may be more suitable for your body. And again, you can recline all the way down, okay? So taking a moment to feel where you want to go in the posture. Remember, some of us are going to be right here the entire time, right? Seated. If that's enough to stretch through the quads, through the knees, I'll come around. How about I come around on this one? This is always one of those is variable, right? Everybody's in a different place for this. So I don't want to walk in my socks. And the extent of your recline, right, may be on the forearms, on the hands. Notice when you start to feel activated, because a lot of the times too, the stress of trying to stay upright will bring you back to an upright position to finish up. Maybe you'd like to utilize your sweater or shirt you might have taken off. And realize once the upper body has fatigued in a recline, you're always welcome to come back seated. And I'll let you guys know when it's time to switch sides if you're working on one side. And know that if you're utilizing bilaterally, you'll be holding for a little bit amount of time. those of you who are in the unilateral position, one leg extended, take 3 rounds of breath. Prepare yourself for that exit. Knowing that you'll be moving into the other side. And so when you've decided to come back out of one side to enter the opposite, coming back to an upright posture, and then moving to the other side. And you'll notice, right, again, the body isn't equal from side to side, from top to bottom, and from front to back. So one side may be very accessible in the recline, however, the opposite side you may need to stay sitting upright. So listen to your body, listen to those knees, right? And starting to move in the direction of where you need to be on that side. Perhaps if you were propped up on blocks, maybe this side is a little bit more accessible. You can allow yourself to sit up on one. Or maybe you need an extra elevation. Take 3 rounds of breath. Those of you, one of you is in the full variation both sides. You're welcome to take 5 rounds if that's what you need. Starting to prepare your body for coming out of the posture. You start to make your way up, carefully coming out. Again, if you like to pop up the knees or lengthen them, what is it you need, right? Shake it out a little bit. And then getting into your variation of pigeon. So whether you like to take the traditional pigeon prep or supine pigeon lying on your back, maybe this time, if you're always taking the regular pigeon prep for this variation, right? Maybe you try it on your back this time, right? So figure 4 and bending into that right knee and stacking the right ankle on top of the left thigh. And remember that the deepening of the posture is how you start to get light on that left foot. You interlace the fingers behind the hamstring, and then the deepest variation around the shin, right? Again, if you'd like to take the more traditional pigeon prep and lengthening into the left leg and then folding over, certainly your option. If you have blocks, bolster, you're welcome to stack them upon each other, right? Rest the chest, rest the forehead down. And I'll come around, especially if you are in the regular pigeon prep, noticing how the pelvis is maybe rocking onto one side or the other. You know, you're targeting now the glutes, the piriformis. Welcome to sack fist. Lengthening for the second toe. And go ahead and take 3 to 5 rounds of breath. And leave it to you to decide when you're going to rise. I encourage you when you do, just swing around or plant both feet, take a few windshield wipers with the knees, and in your own time, getting into pigeon on the other side. In traditional yin, and the pigeon is called sleeping swan. Take 3 to 5 deep breaths. If you're in supine position, stay lying on your back, because we'll have everybody come to their backs after this. But again, taking all the time that you need in your breaths before exiting pigeon on this side. So when you've finished with whatever counter posture you'd like, windshield wipers, three-legged dog, whatever you'd like, I'll find you on your back. And we'll rinse out from the inside out, getting into a lying spinal twist. So if you like, you can hug the knees into the chest, Apanasana. Maybe you like to sway a little side to side, massage the low back a little bit. And of course, different options for your lying spinal twist. So if you'd like to do your knees stacked, you're welcome to do so. Inch the hips a little to the left and allow the knees to fall to the right. And so you may notice that that left shoulder starts to creep up a little bit. Release the twist ever so slightly. Maybe you stack a fist underneath if you don't have any props with you, and extend the left arm forward out to the side. Gaze can follow the left fingertips, or if you like to take one extended right leg nice and long, and then inch the hips a little bit left, and then allow that right knee to fall to the right. And now come around and adjust your spine a little bit, because oftentimes we find ourselves diagonal on the mat. take what you need and enter your lying spinal twist on the opposite side. And go ahead and start to take those deepening breaths, those preparatory breaths for your exit. Unraveling, untwisting when you're ready. And we'll take one final posture before Shavasana this morning. So depending on your needs, I'll give you a couple of options. Bridge, if you need to open up, or if you would like to open up into the front of the hips. Okay, and if you also have any props with you, you can take a more restorative bridge, plant that block right underneath the sacrum. Otherwise, you can take the more traditional bridge and interlace the fingers behind the low back, inch the shoulder blades into the midline. Perhaps the body's calling for an inversion. You can take legs up the wall, Viparita Karani candlestick, and simply flip the palms down and tuck them underneath the hips and soften into the knees a little bit. Allow all the blood to rush from the toes to the nose. Supta Baddha Konasana, right? We did regular butterfly. If you'd like to open up once again, restore, open up into the legs. I'm just taking a unilateral, one-sided type posture versus both. Fish pose in a supported variation if you want to open up into the heart. Okay. Block underneath the head, underneath. Traditional fish, if you'd like that. Flip the palms down, tuck them underneath the hips, point through the toes as they bring the legs together, ground into the forearms, lift the head, and then open up into the throat. And so giving you this opportunity to pick what feels good for you. Maybe it's Shavasana already. And a little extended rest period can be helpful for today's activities. So deciding where you would like to go. We'll take just a few minutes in this posture, whatever you've chosen. And taking your last rounds of breath. And once you've completed your rounds of breaths, you're welcome to stay, especially if you're in a more restorative variation with supported fish, Supta Baddha Konasana. Either one of those can serve as your Shavasana. Otherwise, when you're ready, making your way to your Shavasana of choice. Remember, if traditional Shavasana doesn't serve you, you're welcome to take whatever posture that does, whether that's popping the knees up towards the sky and separating the feet to the width of your mat. You lie on your side or on your belly. Just taking these last few moments of your yin practice to just simply get heavy. Allow all that tension, all that activation to dissipate. Remember that this is the most important posture of your practice. That time between being on your mat and being off your mat. Allowing the body to just simply be. Slowly starting to bring awareness back into the physical body. Wiggling the toes, wiggling the fingers. And gentle rock of the head from side to side. Naturally, you're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana to end your practice. However, if you'd like to close your practice off with me this beautiful Saturday morning here in nature, turning onto your favorite side, press the palms of the hands into the earth, and return to your seat. And whether you come back to Sukhasana, easy seat, full or half lotus, Padmasana, Ardha Padmasana. Maybe we did a lot of hip opening, perhaps bringing the tops of the feet, one or both, into the inguinal creases in the hips is a little bit more accessible now. Allow the eyes to remain closed. Feel the length of the spine as you bring hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra, prayer position. Close the eyes, bow the chin towards the chest. Honor and gratitude for here, for you, for being on your mat. And thank you so much for joining me this morning. It was an honor, a pleasure, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It was amazing.
Thank
Very good.
Oh, you're welcome. If you have any questions, I'm here for you.